Welcome to episode 67 of the RXP podcast, where three working professionals talk about the games, movies, and shows they love to enjoy in their free time. I'm your host today, Alex, and for today's topic, we're going to be talking about when is it time to stop. And no, I'm not talking about when is it time to stop recording this show. I'm talking about when do we decide to stop, watching shows, watching movies, playing games. Like, is there a hard line, or is this just this nebulous concept of saying, when are you truly done with something? And taking time to do that with me today are my co-hosts, as usual, are Matt.
What is up?
And Tiffany.
So can we also potentially talk about when we stop for the night, or is that a completely different conversation?
I mean, I think that can come up, but any type of stopping. I felt like the topic was mostly around, moving on from things. So the idea of saying, I just need to be done with this, whether it's through exasperation or fulfillment, whatever kind of feeling gets you going. And, if it comes up, it comes up. If you want to talk about, if you're playing or watching something till the nigh hours of the night, that can also be a thing.
Okay. Well,
putting
get
something
ready
out to pasture, you know what I mean?
Okay, that's
exactly
fair. Get ready for some
Queen
spicy
Butt
takes.
Stallion.
Wow, you had to talk about
Yeah,
it.
that's a Tiny Tina reference. Anyway, before we get to that, we're gonna take some time first, as always, with our recurring segment of the variety game segment. And for today's variety game segment, it's a simple thing. I'm calling, how long did Alex play this for? And
nice.
for my co-host and for those of you out there, as I mentioned in the past, if you've listened to previous episodes of the podcast, I typically keep a Word document of games I play and also how long I play them for. So whether or not it's just playing them to rolling credits or playing them for a platinum trophy, I write it down because it's a nice kind of singular space I can go back to say, regardless of where I play these, it's easy for me to reference to say, hey, I played, Neo 2 for 80 hours to get that platinum trophy. And so that's just a reference there. But obviously Neo 2 won't be one of the games I list here. But for my co-host, I'm going to pick 5 games from my list. So these are games I've played within the past 3 years or so, give or take. And I'm going to ask them, how long did I play this for? I'm not going to tell you whether or not I got the platinum for this game or whether it was to rolling credits. But it's basically, how long did I play this for? And then stop playing. Simple as that. Closest answer wins. And we're just going to go in rotating format. So, Matt's going to go first round, and then, or actually, Tiffany will go first round, and then Matt will go first round, and then we'll swap back and forth there. I'm letting Matt go second in the first round because he's currently trailing in our running total with 2 points, Tiffany in second with 3 points, and me in first place with 4 points. So we'll give Matt the slight advantage this time around to see if he can make up some ground. So sounds clear?
I'll take it.
All right. First game, Paper Mario, the Origami King. This game came out July 2020. I beat it in August of 2020. So I'm not giving exact dates, but just to give you a time frame of when the game came out, when I got the game and when I actually beat it. How long did I play Paper Mario, the Origami King for? Tiffany.
7 hours.
All right, 7 hours. Matt?
It is closest to win.
Yeah, close. So these are all going to be in hour increments. But yeah, closer answer wins.
I'll go 8.
8 hours?
Yeah.
Wow, playing those Price is Right rules, aren't we?
Yeah.
Well, Price is Right is the right way. Matt's closer with 8 hours. I played Paper Mario, the Origami King. Took me 23 hours specifically to roll credits.
23?
So,
dang.
Yeah. It's a long game. Yeah, it's an RPG.
Honestly,
why did you
I
get
was
so
like,
low?
because I want them points, you know what I mean?
My
I want
God.
these fake points. I honestly, because I know it took me about 25 to 30 hours to beat that game. And I was like, Alex is usually about like 10 hours faster than me on things. So that makes perfect sense to me.
Right, yeah. And I definitely, in one of the few rare cases, Paper Mario Origami King actually had in-game stat tracking, right? Like completions for zones. And I definitely did not do that. I did not 100% most of the zones in that game. So, I was just kind of playing what I found fun and kind of just moved on, rolled credits, and ended it there.
I was just reflecting back to what I know about how long you played Mario Odyssey. And that's
true,
why I picked
but
so
Mario
long.
Odyssey is definitely a very different game than Paper Mario. RPGs always got to add like 90 hours to that estimate.
90 hours to this 23-hour game.
All right, second game, a game we've all played, Hades. This game came out in October, well, I guess officially, I got this game in October of 2020. And I last played this in July of 2021. But how long did I play this game for in total? And this
I'm
time,
gonna
Matt
say
will go first.
14 hours.
All right.
Gosh. I'm going to say 9.
All right. And with that, Matt takes it again. 23 hours.
23 hours?
I thought
So
you
it took
gave
me-
up because you only played it once. Like you only beat it once.
Yes. No. I actually, by 23 hours, I rolled credits on the game. So it took me 13 and a half hours to get the very first clear. So I didn't actually clear a run until 13 and a half hours of playtime. And then it took me about 10 more hours to roll credits on the game.
I didn't think you beat it. I
Yeah,
didn't
I rolled
realize that.
credits.
So you cleared it 10 times.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea. I had no
Yeah,
idea you.
It's
you
one of
beat
the best
game.
games of all time. Like, it's fantastic.
What does that have to do with him beating it or not?
Because why wouldn't you beat it 10 times
Because
if it's
I
the
haven't
goatee?
beat it 10 times.
You're still working on your 23 hours.
No, I've actually surpassed it. I'm just a bad Hades player. I literally got my first clear at run 40.
Okay.
Well, I'll be honest. I cleared it at least once with every weapon. So there are 6 weapons in the game. I've done a clear with every weapon. The last few clears to roll credits, though, I just used the bow. The bow is very
Nice.
overpowered in my opinion. So I was just like, you know what? This
Shield.
is the strongest weapon in the game. Very easy to use. I'm just going to use the bow. So that's what carried me through
So
to
good.
the end.
I love the shield. That was my one and only clear with the shield. Felt
I
like
feel like Captain America.
yeah, I was about to say
Yeah,
that.
so good.
Felt like Captain America.
All right. Third game. A game, again, we've all played. Some more than others. Marvel's Avengers.
Dang it.
We got
Oh,
this game
wow.
in November of 2020, and I last played this in December of 2020. How long did I play Marvel's Avengers for? By December 2020.
I'm going to say 62 hours.
All right.
Oof, man. This is a tough one. I think the better question is, will you do any more hours than what the answer is? Will
That's
it
true,
survive?
but obviously excluding
I will
those
say-
hours.
I will say 60 hours. Because you're fast, and I have no idea how you beat it so fast.
And with that, Tiffany takes this round. 66 hours.
Whoa,
And-
That
nice.
was close.
For
very
perspective, I did get the Platinum Trophy in Marvel's Avengers. So that is 66 hours to completion, technically. I mean, it is a live service game. So, I haven't gone back for any of the Spider-Man content, haven't done the raid in Wakanda. But, those
Yeah,
came out
you-
long after I got that Platinum. So it's kind of hard to say how convincing is this content to get me to come back,
Well, you deleted it from your console, so
That's true too, but maybe that might come up in the podcast later on today. So stay tuned, listeners, if you're interested in some more Marvel's Avengers talk.
I'm sure there's a ton of people still interested in Marvel's
Clamoring.
Avengers.
Oh yeah, every single time they see it in a timestamp, they're like, "I'm clicking to that
Clicking
timestamp.
it.
I want to hear it." All right, so 2-1 in Matt's favor. We're moving on to the fourth game. Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Mm.
So for perspective, I got this game in January of 2021. And so I want to know, or I want you guys to guess, how many hours have I played up until basically today's recording date?
I'm going to say 35 hours.
Dang. I was actually going to say 34.
Oh,
But you
That's
know what?
convenient.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to say 34.
do it.
Oh man, Price is Right rules. What a good time, and this is why we're alternating who takes a guess first. Tiffany takes this round.
Is it really 28?
32 hours.
Oh, so-
Wow,
okay,
nice.
okay.
Okay, excellent.
And so,
excellent.
for perspective on this, I've basically only played a third of the game. I've played that game for 32 hours, and it's only a third. This feels like a Persona 5 level amount of time investment. That is ungodly amount of hours of doing the very similar missions over and over again. So I am nowhere near close to the end of this game, but I definitely don't know if I'm ever going back to it. I've brought it up on the podcast before. I've actually mentioned how much I played it on previous episode,
Oh.
like long, like 20, 30 episodes ago. So in case you guys remembered, it would have that information. But it seemed like, Matt, your inkling, the inkling was there. And Tiffany was like, I'm going to edge you out.
I knew it was like, this is a huge game. It's like hundreds of hours. And I was like, I know he's nowhere near that. Like, I knew you gave up long before that. Cool.
All right, so that means
We're tied. Oh my gosh.
you're tied going to the
drama.
final round. So
The
this
drama.
is the true tiebreaker with the last game. And that is a game, again, we've all played. Wow, look at that. And that's Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Ooh. Okay.
I was really hoping you were
so-
going to ask about Animal Crossing.
That I did think about that. I don't know if I actually have that on my list, so I don't think I have time. Like, not on my list, but like I would have to look at my Switch for that information. But with that, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, this game came out and I got it in October of 2021. I finished playing it in November of 2021. How many hours did I play it for?
This is really tough for me because I know you did it efficiently. Ugh.
As always.
It's not like the longest game at all, so
Yeah, no, it's not very long. I think it's like what, 15 chapters, but like some of the chapters aren't even an hour long.
yeah,
give or
yeah,
take.
yeah. Okay, I'm going to say 26 hours.
26 hours. All right.
Oh,
that
man.
Final guess.
I was
Were you also gonna guess?
I was going to say 25 because I like five increments.
Yeah.
Oh man. Because I can't remember if I beat it in 35 hours or 25 hours. I know you're before me. Like, you finished it faster than me. I'm just going to go with, I was going to say 25 if it was my turn anyway, so I might as well go 25.
All right, Matt's going with his gut, his inkling. And that inkling is true. 'Cause
Dang
he's
it.
closer.
Dang it.
I played Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy for 17 hours.
17.
You are a madman.
Oh my god, I
And-
almost was like 18 hours. Like, but dang.
And also, for perspective, I did get the platinum in this game. I was able to, with the help of a guide, I did find all the collectibles, so I didn't have to backtrack through anything. Found all the outfits. And, I just had to start that New Game Plus to get those last few outfits that you get that unlock on New Game Plus.
You are an absolute animal, Alex. I knew you're fast, but like 17, that game, like the last 3 chapters are pretty significant.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
they're
I
pretty
remember.
long.
I remember even a few of the bosses. I did have multiple retries. Like I did die a couple times. 'Cause
I thought you
was
had
like,
to grind.
You mean for some of the trophies, or
Yeah, I thought you had to
I
grind
had to
for
boost
some
some
of
of
those
the trophies.
there
like some of the
were some
battles.
hard trophies where you had to like have one of the guardians do a specific action, and I
trophies. Yeah.
remember in like one of the chapters I restarted a fight multiple times because I just was like trying to get, I think it was like Drax to like chop off the like thing's limbs or something, but it's like random which guardian, like when you do the interact button, like which one actually does their move. So that did take a few resets as well, but not too many, luckily. But that was pretty frustrating about getting through that. But with that, Matt takes it. He ties it up with Tiffany for 3 points in our each with our running total. I'm similarly with
Congratulations.
4. And so with that, maybe we'll see a new leader in the after the next few VGS segments. But with that, we're now done, as is the topic of today. Done with the VGS. Moving on to the main topic, and keeping it open-ended. When do you what feeling do you guys get, or when do you know you're done with something? Like, when do you feel like you're done with something? And this could be something in general, as Tiffany mentioned, in the before the variety game segment. Whether it could be done for the time being, specifically maybe for the day, or maybe in general, maybe you're just ready to move on. Is there something is there a clear indicator to you that makes it say, I'm ready to go on to something else?
I'm going to say that when I'm no longer enjoying the media, I will stop. And this is more of the permanent stop, not necessarily the end of the day. I am notoriously bad of not knowing when to stop for sleeping purposes. Specifically TV shows. If I'm really in, I will not stop unless I have to physically go to work the next day. And then I will try to at least make sure I have 4.5 hours of sleep if I have to go into work. But in the past, specifically with books, I used to always power through and try to finish a book. Now, in the last 15 years, I would say that I've learned that there's so many hundreds of thousands of books in the world. And so now I will easily drop books when I'm not enjoying what's happening. So specifically in terms of media, I would like to discuss a couple Netflix shows. I have a very spicy take. I could not handle Stranger Things. I watched 2 episodes of Stranger Things and then could no longer stomach Winona Ryder's character. She was too shrieky. She was too devastated. She was a mom desperate to find her son. I am not a mom desperate to find anybody. So I didn't really understand her despair, and her character was just very shrieky. The teenagers were all a-holes except for the brother maybe, and I don't didn't really care about them. I adored the children. I adored Eleven. I adored her posse of Dungeons and Dragons players, but they were literally 1/3 of the show. And 1/3 was not enough for me to power through the rest of it. I also don't have the nostalgia for the 80s as so many other people do. So I readily dropped Stranger Things because I was like, no, I'm not committing to this.
So was that at the clear end of episode 2, or was it part way through episode 2? You're just I'm done with this. Did you
I finished episode 2.
Okay, so was it because you felt out of obligation that you started episode 2, you want to finish it, or was it by the end of episode 2 is when you actually came to that feeling of you just didn't like the characters?
I was waiting for maybe a cliffhanger to draw me in or something. Is something going to happen where I'm never mind, I can power through this. But it never happened. Another Netflix show.
Well, I want to talk more about this because
okay.
I find that so surprising. Stranger Things, I don't know. I quite enjoy Stranger Things. I do agree with you, Winona Ryder, as I am also not a mom, nor am I distressed to find my unborn son anywhere.
Isn't he born?
Yeah, he is. He's just going crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Oh, it is really good though. Like, playing with the boys on Dead by Daylight, because Stranger Things is on Dead by Daylight. It got pulled, but you can still play those characters. We were in a lobby with Steve Harrington, the teenager with like the really cool hair, you know. And we were kind of talking. Just me and Yasser were like, Steve Harrington has a really good character arc, and you really don't see it until, especially season 2, but season 3, you really get into it. And I don't know, I wish you liked it, because I feel like you get over the Winona Ryder section of that once what happens in the first season is done with. But I get you though, like, I don't know, something to just like taint a whole experience, one character in particular, that's pretty powerful. It's thing to happen to you.
Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, also the teenagers, they were like mean to Barb, like
yeah.
I'm just not about that anymore, Or I need moderation. I don't know. I mean, I still love Mean Girls, the movie, and obviously that clearly has a bunch of people being mean teenagers, but like the whole vibe, I was like 80s. I'm like, so what? Like, I wasn't conscious in the 80s. I have no memories of it. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, people were like, "Oh man, look at that!" Like, and I was just like, "Whatever." I don't. Yeah. It wasn't. I needed more sci-fi early on, I guess, to like really grab me.
Did you ever watch Dark?
No.
Because that's another Netflix show, and I feel like people say that is a grown-up version of Stranger Things. Like, it has the sci-fi of Stranger Things, but it doesn't have any of like the kid drama. I've always wanted to check it out. I just haven't. But if you're looking for sci-fi and you're looking for something to watch, I don't know. Maybe you'll be right. Maybe like No Winona Ryder will be like perfect, like the secret sauce. You can finally like enjoy something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I love the children. Like, I like the children. Like, that was like, that was fun, and like they had the tropes. The kid that's like, we shouldn't do that. Like, I'm scared. Like, don't do that. And then the one kid that's like, we gotta explore. Like literally the Goonies, but here. Yeah.
Goonies, It, like all these, like the kids are basically the same.
Yeah. Or Sandlot, whatever. So like, but it was too much for me. But I was happy to stop, because Alex, like Stranger Things was like 8 to 10 episodes.
Yeah.
I was like 8 to 10 hours of watching this, and I have to pay attention. Like, that's a long time.
Right. And you got through like a fifth or a quarter of it.
That's
and
true.
I feel like in terms of like, especially for that season, like the perspective, right? If it didn't get you there, like, not to say it's sunk cost fallacy, but I'm like, you already put in the 2 hours. If it's not there, like, why move on, right? Like, and in most cases, right, that's a whole movie. It's like you watched a whole movie you didn't like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in direct reference to that, there's very few movies I don't finish, mostly because they're short, and it's like, oh, I just want to have the valid opinion of saying if a movie's bad, it is bad, right? And I feel like, you have to watch the whole thing to have a like earnest opinion of that, right? But the one movie that sticks out in my mind that I actually never finished, so like the only movie I guess I've never finished really in my lifetime that I knowingly remember, is Inception. I actually found Inception very boring, and I only watched 40 minutes of it, and I just left. I was like, I was over it.
You left the theater?
No. It was at home. And I was like, Alex, watch this magnificent movie.
Yeah, so she bought the Blu-ray. We were watching it at home with the family in the living room. And 40 minutes in, I was just not impressed. I just didn't. And I guess it wasn't like to say there was bad acting or anything. I just wasn't interested in the story. Like, there was nothing really to hook me to say, okay, maybe the premise of what the movie's about in terms of, right, inserting thoughts into people's minds and making it believe it's their own, right? And that's like the effective way to say, this is how you get people to do something, right? Because only if they truly believe it's their own idea will they do it, rather than it being someone, as if someone told them to do something. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, it just didn't grab me. I know a lot of people, and this was also years after it already come out, right? Because we bought the Blu-ray long after it released. I think it originally came out 2013 or so.
2010.
2010? Yeah, even older than that. And yeah, it was like 5 years ago we watched it, or I tried to
It
watch
wasn't
it.
5 years ago. I think I bought it like relatively, like it came out and then I bought it. Like I think it was within like a year or two.
Well, then even worse. I just wasn't about it. I was
Wow.
not impressed, and so I never watched the entirety of Inception.
You guys are breaking my actual heart. Because like Stranger Things is great, but even more than that is Inception. Inception is definitely in my top 25 movies of all time. Like it is a standout for Christopher Nolan. When we talked about in last year during Oscar season, me, Tiffany, and Ariel talked about like our favorite movies of the past decade.
Yeah.
Inception was there for me, and I went on and on, so you guys can listen to that if you want to. But Inception for me was such a magical part of my life. I know it's 2010 because I actually graduated high school in 2010, and it came out that summer. And so I remember that like magical period between high school and college where like me and my buddies, we just graduated high school, feeling like on top of the world. We literally watched Inception like 3 times. Like we watched Inception, and then it was like that ending, and we all just like started theorizing. We would like went to a coffee shop and like just started talking about like all these things, and we're trying to convince each other that what we saw was the actual interpretation. And then we went and watched it the next night. Like it was like such an awesome experience, and maybe that's why I think so fondly of it. The interesting part about you saying you gave up on it 40 minutes, the first 40 minutes, or really like the first third of the movie, is Christopher Nolan doing what Christopher Nolan does, which is he over explains concepts. And the first 40 minutes of Inception is basically all monologue. They are explaining the ins and outs of Inception, and you're made to believe this kind of dream machine. And it's not until that last third that the first third really kind of is fine. Like the first third, with that, just the first third, I could see why you don't like it. But seeing how it pays off in the end, you realize how much you needed that laid foundation that he carefully explained through all these monologues. So I guess I can see it, because like if you only had
Matt's
first
in
40
denial
minutes
here.
What's that?
You're like in denial. I'll say this. I think I actually really enjoyed the idea. Like the idea behind Inception, right? The mechanics of it.
Yeah.
I think I like, as a basis of saying the concept of how do you insert something into someone's mind. Like I like kind of that. I guess it's more so the mystery and everything else surrounding it, but also like what they're specifically trying to insert like for that movie. Just like I didn't care. Like I felt like, to me, I didn't care about the characters or what they were trying to accomplish. And so I was so interested in the idea, but not necessarily like the journey of those characters specifically. And so I think that's why I'm like, regardless how interesting this mechanic is, like I could see this, reused in something else, and it'd probably be just as cool, as long as it was done well. But I just didn't care about that like cast of characters and like what they were trying to accomplish at the end of the day.
Yeah, I honestly think, though, that you're kind of like doing yourself a disservice for quitting after 40 minutes, because a lot of the character development, which is like something that I definitely is one of my favorite things in any movie, happens in that last third. Because you're not really seeing, okay, who is this Tom Hardy person? They have a past, but they don't really know anything about him. And then you can see through his actions later in the movie, like what type of person he actually is. It's an interesting thing. And this is coming from someone who, out of everything, I quit games, I quit TV shows, I quit books. One thing I don't quit are movies. I watched probably one of the worst movies I ever watched last year during quarantine. Like, Netflix was releasing a movie every month.
You mean every week?
Every week. This might have been actually 2 years ago now. They released this just terrible movie. Probably the worst movie I've ever
6 Underground?
watched. Nope, it wasn't that.
I just want to side note. I should have quit watching that movie. That's a movie that I should not finish.
Yeah, why did you? We were also watching that with the fam, and he was in the living room too, so he could have totally bled.
And technically, I did quit because I just went on my phone and started doing other things. So I spiritually quit.
True. I feel like even when I'm like watching really terrible movies, I still will watch it. I'll just still watch it.
So which movie did you quit?
I haven't seen Six Underground. I don't remember what the movie's called.
Oh, the worst movie.
To be honest,
I think that's even better, right? Because it's so bad. Like, why bother retaining it? You know, it's like you just want to cleanse yourself. And honestly, Matt, I agree with you that I would also typically not do it. I think Inception's the only movie that I've done that with. Like every other movie I've kind of like, if I've set out to watch it, like I've actually watched it all the way through. Also, right, as you said, you know, typically these are like 2 to 3 hour at most journeys. So it's like not even too much time to really get the whole story. And so I think it is definitely better. And right. And this is to say, you know, listeners out there, you can say my opinion's meaningless because I've only watched the first 40 minutes. Sure. But it just, to me, I just wasn't grabbed. And for some reason, I guess it was also the hype, the fact that I was watching after the fact, that people hyped it up so much that helped build into saying, oh yeah, I should like this, right? Because the public opinion says I should like it. And then I watch it and we get 40 minutes in and I'm just not jiving with it. I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I just want to be done here. And so I just stopped watching.
I mean, first of all, I adored the movie, which is why I bought it. And then I know our dad did not appreciate it because he's like, why isn't there more action? But whatever. I would just like to say also that it's essentially like a heist movie, like a very highfalutin heist movie. And when have you ever cared about any of the characters of any heist movie in the first like 30 minutes? Because I've never. I mean, they like meet. This is the guy that's gonna pick the lock, like from Ocean's 11, and he's like, "Hey, I have
this is
money."
The acrobat.
Yeah, that
he's gonna do a flip.
Yeah, and so like for me, like in most heist movies, I don't anticipate to care about any of these fools until like I see their journey, you know. So, but I understand. Yeah, I vividly still remember Alex was like, "I don't care about this. Turn this off," and I was like, Dad and I are still watching this. And he's like, I'm gonna go. I tend to agree with you guys, or like most movies I try to finish. I try to finish most movies. I have quit bad Netflix movies, you know, on occasion in the last like 5 years. Alex, I watched another Ryan Reynolds Netflix movie called The Adam Project, and it was not great. It was not a great movie. It has Mark Ruffalo and Zoe Saldana, and it still wasn't that great. But I finished that one. And we also finished Venom 2, and honestly, I wish we stopped it. Like, I don't like that we finished Venom 2 when we watched that over the holidays. Like, that was a trash fire of a movie. But there was action in there, so our dad was like, whatever, this is fine.
I feel like it comes down to how much I think my time is worth. And for a movie, it's just an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I could deal with 2 hours. Like, at the end of the day, like, I feel like I can say something about any movie I watch, whether or not I like it or not. But when you like really start, that's why I tend to quit TV shows a whole lot more, and I quit video games a whole lot more because of that time commitment. Like, if I'm not jiving, honestly, the most engrossed you should ever be in a series is the pilot. Like, the point of the pilot, the first episode, is to get you in. And if I'm not feeling in, and I'm not really enjoying the characters, it's going to take a lot for me to continue. So I definitely quit very early on in TV shows. If I'm like, yeah, that was fine. Like, there's a person at work that really wants me to watch this series. I'm like, it's fine. I had a fine time, but I'd rather have a good time watching The Last Kingdom, which I'm really jiving with. And like, I'm just binging through because it's just amazing. Meanwhile, like a game, like I love finishing it games. I love platinum games. I love 100%ing games. And then when they have like a super hard trophy or like maybe something I really have to grind for, if I have to put like 10 to 20 hours for one trophy, I will swallow my pride and delete the game and be like, you know, it's not worth it. Like it's not worth it. Like I'm thinking like Kena Bridge of Spirits,
I was gonna mention that.
That
But
hard
you
mode.
finished it. You
I
finished
finished it, but that hard mode to get that last trophy that I needed for the platinum, I'm like, maybe I will come back to this if they nerf some of these bosses, because the boss fights are just not well done, in my opinion. To be as difficult it is, I just didn't think it matched with your ability. And then two, a game that I really, really love, Final Fantasy VII Remake. I love that game. I platinumed the main game. When I played the DLC, those hard mode bosses, I would have to grind, and I would have to make individual builds for each of these bosses. And to make those individual builds, you would have to get your materia and then upgrade all the materia. And to do all that, it would take me probably 10 to 12 hours just to get my builds right before I could at least try the boss. And I was like, I love this game. I don't want to regret loving this game. I don't want to come out of this and be like, I wish I could have spent my time doing something else.
I'm pretty bad with video games in that I always think I'm going to go back. I don't know
That's your
that
toxic trait.
I don't know that I've yeah. I don't know that I've ever actually been I'm never playing this game again.
Yeah.
I've never actually had that thought to myself, or at least honestly it's not coming to mind when I've decided I'm done here. Without well, actually no. So Sackboy A Big Adventure, I finished the game, so I'm done, right? So, but I didn't get that one last trophy, which was the Knitted Night Trials altogether. But I knew I was I'm done with this. But I didn't think that was considered I didn't see that as stopping, because I'm not technically a trophy hunter. But yeah, in most situations for video games, I'm quite optimistic. TV shows, I'm quite good at deciding I'm done here. I give a lot of credit to shows that grab me really quickly. I have this rule where if it's a half-hour show, I'll watch 3 episodes to I see an hour of it and see if it interests me, then I move forward. If not, then whatever. 1-hour shows, I actually do I think I usually decide by the first episode if I'm here or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm very similar. I mean, Tiffany talks about shows in general, but specifically it's for me in anime, right? Anime episodes, 21 minutes long. I watch the first 3 episodes of most seasons or most shows that I try. Mm-hmm. And if I don't like it in the first episodes, I drop it, because it's that thing of, right, typically anime seasons these days are 12 episodes, so 3 episodes is a quarter of it. So if I've gone through a quarter of the show, at least for the season, and if I don't like it, I'm just done with it, right? Because it's if you can't grab me this far into it and I have to watch the whole thing, I mean, I feel the hook is very important for a lot of things, right? It's even listen to music, right? Even though I'm pretty sure no one quits listening to a song, or you probably do, but it's probably for other reasons, not necessarily the length. But it's that first 30 seconds, the first part of anything is really important. And it's similar to Inception, right? To me, where I'm I need to at least have an established feeling that I think I'm going to like it. And if I don't get there in the beginning, then I typically use that as my kind of signal to say, you know what, you're probably not going to like this. And for the most part, it's usually right there. I don't know many times that, or at least I can't vividly remember any times where I've regretted, right, that I've gone back to something I didn't think I'd go back to, and then actually ended up liking it and wondered to myself, why did I quit it in the first place? Because typically I feel my feelings have done me right. And, talking about games too, I'd say, unlike Tiffany, I definitely have a hard cutoff. I know, even on my list, right, I list out games I know I won't go back to. And one in particular is The Witness. And so for those of you out there that know The Witness, right, this is a puzzle game, and it's essentially you either figure out what the puzzle is or you don't. And I came to the point where I was so stumped, I started looking up solutions, and then I realized, this being a puzzle game, what's the point in playing the game anymore if I'm just looking at the solution? It's I'm completely just not playing the game at that point. And so definitely for puzzle games, when it comes to that, it's a hard drop for me, because I realized hey, I mean, the Witnesses has very easy trophies because the trophies are just solve all of the puzzles. And so technically, I could just look up the solution to every puzzle and get this platinum for free. But, I stopped playing because I was like, I could get the trophies, but I wasn't playing the game for the trophies. I was actually intrigued by the puzzle mechanics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even as simple as they are, which were basically connect the dots type of puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that it came to the point where I was essentially cheating myself out of the game, that I was like, yeah, I definitely should just stop playing this because it isn't for me. I was getting frustrated. I just couldn't figure it out. I was being a dumb, so I just had to move on.
I actually quit The Witness as well. And a big part of the reason why is I actually got to the very end. You open the mountain, you get through the mountain, there's a bunch of puzzles that kind of like test your ability that you've learned throughout this entire process. I got it, I think it was PS Plus game.
Yeah.
I had initially played on Xbox, never finished it, and it was like, I'm just going to do this again. Like, because the problem was if you take a break from The Witness, you forget all the mechanics and how to solve the puzzles. It's so difficult. So I went through it and got all the way to the end, and it just got too hard. It just got too hard for me because the last puzzle is procedurally generated. So every time that you start the puzzle, it's going to be different. And so there's no way for you to be like, okay, I'm going to memorize this answer and then move on to the next one because it's going to be way different the next time. And so it really makes sure that you're a master of your skill and a master of the puzzles. And honestly, I was like, I think I got really close a couple times, but it just was like really stressful. And I was like, I'm okay. Like, I'm okay if I don't get this. Like, it's just, I'm going to have to put a lot of effort into this. And I just feel like that was also at the beginning of like having a PlayStation. So I'm like, I've got other games and I shouldn't be like wasting my time on a game that I've already played and really enjoyed when it first came out.
So I took a quick perusal of my PlayStation trophy list, and I actually found 2 games on here that I did stop and like will never ever go back to. One of them is Maneater, that shark game that we got for free, PS Plus.
Oh yeah,
I played it
I
for
never
like
played it.
an hour and a half or to 2 hours, and honestly, I had fun. But I also was like, oh, okay, that's it. I'm a shark. I'm eating things. I killed someone. I'm collecting things. I'm evolving. I evolved it to maybe a teen, I think. And then I was like, okay, I'm
Watch
done.
out, Teen Werewolf. It's Teen Shark Time.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm done. That was fun. That was a fun jaunt. And then this other game actually broke my darn heart, which is Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remaster.
I was waiting to see if you were going to mention that because I was going to bring it up if you didn't.
It came out like 3 years ago, and I was ready for it because everyone talks so highly of it. It was a co-op game. I made Alex also buy it. We had another friend buy it. We tried to play it, and it was a bloody nightmare. Playing co-op, only the host gets progress. We literally spent the first day redoing the 3 dungeons 3 times. And then Alex progressed to the second area, and then he couldn't join back to our parties because he was already far gone. So then the next time we played, I had to play it by myself and make it there. And it was just not, I was like, what is this BS?
Mm-hmm.
This is hot garbage. I wanted to play this co-op with people. The fact that we can't all get progress simultaneously. The fact that I had to watch Alex's character every single cutscene collect the dewdrop or whatever because he was the one holding the dang lantern. I was like, what is this? So sad.
Yeah, no. Yeah, definitely that's on this. That was the second thing I was going to mention. Just when and I feel like for me, this comes down to as a very clear marker of saying when you play a game, right? When you've played a session, regardless if it's something you're playing for the first time or playing you've come back to, taking maybe a small break or you're just playing again. I think it's really doesn't make you feel at least this is my standard of if I'm not smiling or if I didn't think hey, that was a good time after I shut off the game. I feel that's kind of my indicator to say I just need to be done with this, because it's that feeling to say, right, like these are creative pursuits, as we say in our intro every time, we have full-time jobs that are outside of the entertainment industry. Like we're not playing these things or watching these things to get paid. We're not reviewers, we're not analysts or whatnot. And so it's definitely that thing to say, right, we have to be mindful of our free time. And if we're not having fun with something, I think it makes sense to stop, and it's definitely for me too. And I need to shout this out because it's probably the game I've played the most in my entire life, and that's League of Legends. In that, I played most of it in college, during my college years. And kind of when I first started playing, I didn't have a goal, right? Because obviously, as a competitive online game, there's not really an end to it, right? Like you just keep playing the game, right? Every match is self sustained and, it's within itself and contained. And so, or self-contained, not self-sustained, self-contained, and there's not any bleed out to anything else. But I set out with the goal to say I'm going to reach platinum rank, because when I started at the time, platinum was the highest rank in the game. So I thought, hey, if I can get good enough to reach the highest rank, I've like, to me that's like beating the game, right? I've like
You
gotten
made it.
good enough to say, yeah, I've made it. And eventually they added more ranks, and it came to the point where I knew, okay, so they added what they call challenger rank, which was essentially the professional rank. Like people that were challenger were either professionals that played the game, they got paid to play this competitively, or they were people that were good enough to play competitively. And I knew I was never going to get there. But there was a diamond rank, and I saw myself, hey, if I can get there, if I can get to diamond, I think I've proven to myself that I know how to play the game. And in order to get any higher, it's just putting in more time, right? It's just like with anything, grinding out matches, and eventually you'll get there if you're good enough. And so by the time season 4, season 5 came around, I got there. I got to diamond, and that's kind of where I stopped. Not to say I stopped playing the game, because I still play it to this day, but I knew I wasn't going to ever play the game seriously anymore, because I proved to myself to say, at least I got here. And back in the day, diamond was top 0.2% of players. So
Wow.
a very small fraction of the player base ever got that high. And I could say, hey, I know how to play the game. Whether or not, my teammates think I know how to play a game, that's a different story, right? Because that's per game, right? You're proving that every single time you queue into a match. But at least I know I don't need to grind this game anymore. And I still love it, right? As a game I play from time to time, it's something I always go back to. They're continually updating it, new characters, balance updates, and so it's always still different. It still feels fresh, but I know, hey, this is a game I play to have fun because I like the game mechanically. I just don't need to take it seriously anymore. Is there anything like that for you guys? Or are there games that you've like played over time and maybe, let's say, you still go back to or watch or read even, but you just do it in a more casual way?
For sure. I mean, I'm the same with League of Legends, and I'd probably say that with Fall Guys. And, maybe, I feel like I have a handful of Switch games that I pop in occasionally, but it's very casual. Obviously, like Mario Kart is the same. And then Mario Party. But I guess those are like unique scenarios.
Yeah, like I used to play Overwatch quite a bit, and I used to be quite decent at Overwatch. Like I had a squad, and we would do fairly well, like ranked play and just casual, just quick match. We would play every day, like multiple hours a day, every day for months. Like it was a standing order to that, okay, we're at least going to play like 2 hours each night of Overwatch. And like we all had our roles, like we all had our tanks, and okay, Kevin wants to play tank this time, Matt, can you hop on Lucio? It's like, yeah, I got you. Like I can play Lucio, that's cool. Like I had all my characters that I could play, and I could play well. And that was when Overwatch League really got started, and I started watching like more competitive Overwatch. And I still subscribe to Overwatch, even though I have not played Overwatch in years. I left it because, one, I was kind of burnt out from the gameplay. Two, was kind of burnt out from the toxicity of the community. And I was just in a very different headspace at that moment. Just like in school and everything, and I wasn't about it. So it's something that I know I'll never go back to. Like I'll never play Overwatch again. Overwatch
Oh.
2, maybe I will check it out. Primarily, I probably won't go back to Overwatch PvP just because the toxicity really still burnt me. But the PvE of Overwatch 2 makes me interested because the game is mechanically brilliant. Like, it is a fantastic game. It really is. It was my game of the year that year. And honestly, it's one of the best games of the past generation. It's just when you have that toxicity, it just kind of ruins it. So maybe I'll check out Overwatch 2, but I'll likely never reboot up Overwatch 1.
All right. And with that, I guess that we're this episode comes to an end, just like Matt's Overwatch career. So if you like this episode, you can write in to rxp.podcast@gmail.com or at rxp_podcast on Twitter, or comment down below on the YouTube version of this video and let us know, are there things that you guys go back to, or are there things you've dropped because you're either done with it, you finished it, you got that platinum, or you rolled credits, or you just didn't like it anymore, as all things come to an end, so does this episode. So shout out to Grandmaster Doug for providing our music, and until next time, take care.
You are a madman.